buzzword these days is creative economy, but the music industry has been around for a long time. What does the word creativity mean in the music world?
Well, I mean, for us, creativity means business. The music industry is one of the few industries that continually monetizes art. You know, creativity is a generation of an idea, of a thought, of an art process. And the music industry is one of those industries that takes that process and creates a value out of it. So by creating the value, we actually create a source of revenue for the songwriters, the singers, the producers, the musicians. Everybody gets a share because they shared in the creative process. So for us, creativity means business.
You seem to be involved with a lot of artists,
yes,
with creative people.
Yes.
How do you nurture their creativity?
Well, it's not easy because no two artists are identical. It is actually identifying what an artist is about, what they hope to achieve, and understand whether that special magic that is held in every artist can be taken and shared with the world. I'll give you a very, very simple example. I mean, an artist like Madonna, for example, she's a pure businesswoman. So for us, for her, the thing that motivates her is how can I do more business, you know? And she makes a lot of money because that's what drives her. If you rewind the clock, and there was a famous artist called Kurt Cobain, who was the lead singer of Nirvana. I mean, he was an artist that was full of pain. You know, the thing that drove him was his pain. And every time he became more successful, it became more painful for him because the success created softness, and he wasn't about softness, he was about suffering. And it caused him to take his life. So in the end, the success was not what he wanted. He just wanted freedom from pain, but he didn't want success. So it went counter to what he actually wanted as an artist. So when you talk about dealing with a lot of creative people and, you know, what exactly our objectives are, I don't think we have an identical objective for every artist. I mean, every artist wants to make some money, they want to be famous, they want their message to get out there. But in most cases, there is something that we see. If we feel that they want to be commercialized, we find that magic of that artist, and then we help them commercialize it. So our recent successes include Justin Bieber, who is a 16-year-old boy. He is the hottest act in America at this point in time. 2 years ago, nobody knew who he was. You know, but he wanted to do this. The family was very supportive, and we've done it. Also, another very famous artist is a girl called Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift, again, very young girl, you know, determined, very talented, wants to break in the world. So Universal got the deal because we promised to take her to the world, you know, and we have. Now she's a famous artist worldwide. Lady Gaga. 3 years ago, nobody knew who Lady Gaga was. And now everybody wants Lady Gaga. And is Justin Bieber the same as Taylor Swift, the same as Lady Gaga? No, they're not. But in each case, we've taken the essence of what that artist is, the creativity, the whole concept of what they're trying to deliver, and we basically commercialize it. We create a whole package of hype, of desire, of value, and we basically make that artist a wanted artist, a hit artist. Does it work all the time? No, it doesn't work all the time. We spend a lot of money making unhit artists, but when it does work, it feels very good. Yeah.
Has market demand globally becomes easier to meet because now people worldwide are connected through the internet, through Facebook and Twitter, so consumer tastes more or less become similar?
I think the biggest problem that I have with the music industry, well, not music, the way music is consumed now as opposed to the way music was consumed when I was growing up, is that the loyalty to an artist has disappeared a little bit. So, you know, just say, if I look back and I say ABBA, I just loved ABBA. Everything ABBA, I just loved it, you know? And I would wait for the next album, and I'd buy the album, and, you know, I'd listen to 10 songs, even though I only liked 3 songs, I'd listen to all 10 songs. I just loved the artist, and I would try and find out more about the artist and things like that. And I mean, you can put a bit more complicated and more serious artists in the mix. But what I find with the consumption of music these days is that that whole desire of learning what the whole ecosystem of delivering that piece of music has disappeared. I mean, my brother, who is older than me, I mean, he would tell you who the producer was, who the musicians, what studio they recorded, that kind of desire to know more about a particular project. And that whole desire has disappeared. I mean, what we have now, and it's come across a few industries, this whole concept of snacking, I only want what is sweet, the sour bits are now just, and they only snack on the sweet bits, so you end up with a very, very patchy kind of knowledge or love for music. It tends to be a very, very transient relationship between the consumer and the music product, where it used to be a lot more substantial. So if you ask whether people's tastes have been made similar, I don't think we're any more different now than we were 50 years ago. I mean, everybody loved the Beatles. Everybody, well, not everybody, but the people who like Jimi Hendrix around the world. The people who like ABBA around the world. So there was always this global perception. It's just that the speed of the message going across was different. I mean, it was a much slower time in those days.
How has the Asian market changed over the last couple of years?
Well, the biggest change in the Asian market is that we've seen the growth of digital consumption. You might not believe it or not, you might not believe it, but half of the revenues I make in Asia come from a digital platform. And people keep thinking, oh, but we don't have iTunes in Asia. And that's the misconception. Just because it's digital doesn't mean it's iTunes. There are a whole bunch of ways of consuming music, whether it's on a ringtone, a ringback tone, a track download, a subscription service. Unlike the old days where you bought an LP or a cassette or a CD, the consumption of music now is very, very liquid. There are many, many ways that you can actually appreciate or actually acquire ownership of a song. So Asia has seen a huge growth spurt in its digital services. So it means that for every bit of money I make on a CD, I make the same amount of money from not CD. And it's actually a very, very interesting position to be in, because as we know, the CD business is actually a declining business. I mean, it's come to the end of its life as a format. I don't know whether you heard me speak earlier about the life cycles of formats. I mean, they have a life cycle of about 25, 30 years. So if you look at the CD, it arrived on the scene in 1980. So 25, 30 years, that's 2010. It's now, So we should actually be looking at the new format. So the new format is digital. But unlike the old days where it went from one physical format to one physical format to one physical format, from LP to cassette to CD, the new digital formats are not unified. You can have an iTunes model, you can have a Spotify model, you can have an Amazon model, there's a whole bunch of different models. You can have a ringback tone model with the telcos, you can have a subscription service with a ISP, a whole bunch of different services. So that's been the main growth element that we've seen in Asia. The biggest problem that we're finding is that there's still a very, very big pirate market with regards to illegal downloading. And I mean, the sad part about it is that the longer it takes us to actually get a hand of the illegal services, the longer it's going to get us to reinvest and bring out more new acts and more hit product artists for the future. It takes away the employment opportunities. I mean, like, I'm very lucky. I've been in this business for almost 15, 20 years. I cannot believe I've had a career in the music business for almost 20 years. I cannot believe that as a young man, I walked into a record company, they gave me a job to promote music, and I've seen a career develop from my passion of music to something where I can actually help determine the growth of music around the whole region. How many young people are there in Thailand? How many young people are there around Asia? How many young people are there around the world who have this kind of passion for music, who will never get the opportunity to participate because the record companies won't hire anybody? The production houses won't hire anybody. The songwriters aren't looking for anybody. So the longer we take to fix the problem of illegal downloading or the leakages from the industry, which means we spend money, but we don't get the money back. It's a leakage. So the longer it takes us to fix the leakages, the longer it's going to take us to restart a proper creative industry in a market like Thailand, which will create enough job opportunities for people who want to be in this business. I mean, if somebody wants to be an engineer, I don't want them in the music business. But you know, somebody who loves music, who can eat, breathe, and think about creative ideas on how to make the next Lady Gaga, how to make the next Justin Bieber, how to make the next Black Eyed Peas, or how to make the next U2, or how to make the next Bon Jovi, with the passion and ideas that, oh, I can really do this. I can really change radio, I can change TV, I can change how online is being activated. And they will determine the future of the business. But you know what? That opportunity might never be there, because we would have withdrawn from the Thai market, or we would have made our operation so small that there's no room for innovation and there's no new room for new people with new ideas. It's just be safe. Don't be crazy. Don't try anything new. Just be safe. And that's not what the business is about. So we need to find a way to fix that. And the good news is that we are actually fixing it. We're fixing it around the world. So it's not just about Thailand, it's about around the world. Because what they're saying is that when the internet first came, everybody had this idea of this wonderful new space where everything was moving in a free, transient kind of, you know, as long as the internet can have it for free. It's just there to be shared, you know, shared. And that was the idea of what the internet was. But as we're going along, and as we call it activity on the internet is becoming more sophisticated, more and more businesses are finding that they're being affected by the lack of control, the lack of rules, the lack of guidance on how the internet should be used. So the music companies were the first. Now it's the film companies, then it's the book companies, then it's the newspaper companies, then it's the software companies. And everybody is being affected. All these creative industries are being affected by the lack of guidance on the internet sphere. So countries like Sweden, countries like the UK, countries like France are all looking at bringing in some sort of framework that will allow people with creative ideas to actually protect and monetize their businesses on the internet. There will be a bit more restrictions, but you know what? In the long run, it's going to be better for everybody.
The correlation is crystal clear, right?
Yeah.
Piracy hampers creativity.